We're going to be presenting today on Google Meet and Google Jamboard. Now, if you've noticed, the interface for Google Meet has changed. They made some improvements and laid out some things. Okay, so I had to make some last minute changes to my presentation. And in there, I have created a presentation with screenshots of the interface with explanations for each point that I will read and go over you. But if you have a copy of the presentations, you can always refer back to them. Some of it I'll go into a little bit more detail, and I have some of the pop-up menus there. So let me go ahead and start presenting. Okay. Be in the know with Google Meet and Jamboard. I'm Walter Wilkins. I'm the Digital Learning Specialist at Cigarroa High School. I'm Google Level 1 educator. I've been teaching, taught in the classroom for 25 years. This is my 35th year with LISD. Mr. Hill.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Hill. I'm the Digital Learning Specialist that's currently at Ryan Elementary and at Dikes Elementary. I was also previously at Nixon and at Cigarroa Middle, so I see a couple of familiar faces. So hello, everybody. And for everybody that's a little bit familiar with me, you might see the beard, which is going to be a little bit different from my Bitmoji. My Bitmoji hasn't been updated. Still trying to figure out if I'm going to keep the beard or not. Who knows? I'm in summer mode, so we'll see what happens. Welcome to our session, and we're going to start off with the extremely savvy Walter Wilkins, who will be beginning the presentation. And again, please feel free to leave any questions in the chat or email, and we'll go ahead and give you more of that at the end of the presentation. But of course, if there's something that you'd like to post online quickly as we are doing our presentation, please place that on the chat area. Thank you very much.
We'll talk about Google Meet and some extensions that make Google Meet work better. Help you do some of the bookkeeping things to it. Discuss helpful extensions for Chrome that help with Google Meet. We'll also discuss how to use Google Jamboard. Discuss uses of Jamboard with Google Meet. And let you play with Jamboard a little.
Perfect. It's now visible. Thank you.
Okay. Now, this is the login screen for Google Meet. If you're doing anything with the district, always look up over here in the upper right corner to make sure you're in your district account. One good way to know that for sure, if you do not see Gmail here, then you're in your district. You should be in your district account. If you see Gmail, then you're in your personal. The district does not have the Gmail service. Okay? It's better to use the Google Meet screen to create your Google Meets than to use the calendar, because the ones in the calendar stay open and just about anybody can get in until you start setting the host controls once you enter the meeting. You can start a new meeting here, or you can use a code or a nickname. The nicknames will work for anybody inside LISD. The network management system will keep a list of those nicknames in reference to the neat code that goes with it, but that will only work inside LISD. Somebody that tries to join with a nickname from outside of the district, it will not work. Okay? Or you can use the meeting from your Google Classroom, which is what most teachers do. Okay. Now, some of the things that have changed in the meeting screen. And they rearranged some things. It still has all the same features it had before. They've just rearranged some things. You have the meeting code here. Turn your mic on and off. Turn your camera on and off. Turn your captions on and off. And to raise your hand.
Then on the second portion, you see there's also the option for sharing your screen or giving being able to give your presentations. The little three dots are the change your settings, your background, your layout, and there are other options that are also available. You also have the option for leaving the meeting, which is the hang up, which is right there highlighted in red. So you press that button. And I just wanted to highlight real quick also right before we entered the session, for those of you that turn on the captions, it is a wonderful option for those students that may not be able to, maybe the audio is having issues on your computer. If you turn on the captions and you're able to do your lecture, as long as you're speaking clearly into the microphone, you don't really need to slow down your speaking patterns. Google does a very good job of being able to present and type out your information as you're lecturing. So right now I might be speaking a little bit quickly, but if you're doing a presentation and you wanted the words to be presented on the screen, we tried that option a few minutes ago, and it's a wonderful option that's currently working through Google Meets. Okay, next slide, Walter. We also have on the far right, you have the share meeting details with guests. You also have the right next to that is the view, the remove, and the pin for the participants and for you to invite more people, okay? This is a wonderful option, especially for those of you that have sessions either with your students or with your parents. And for example, maybe they're trying to access your presentation, maybe on a phone or maybe on an iPad. They might have a weak signal, and maybe maybe they just can't get a signal at all and they want to listen to the audio. This would be the screen that you could click on, and then you can provide that so that they can at least hear your lecture. Or you can provide them the pin and they'd be able to enter and see the video and the audio of your presentation. You also have the next option to send the chat messages. And the last option to your far right is to use the breakout rooms, polls, question and answers, and other meeting features that are available.
Now, when you go to present to your audience, you have three main options. Once you click on the present, you get your entire screen, a window, or a tab. This option the first one presents your entire screen, but it doesn't share the audio. When you change from one window to another, it'll share them also. Whatever is showing on your screen, you switch to it, it'll be shown and presented to everybody in the meeting. Option 2 is a window. This option will only share one window. If you want to share to another window, if you change to another window, it's not going to show it unless you tell Google Meet to do so. And the last one is a tab. This option will share a tab in your Chrome browser, which is what I'm doing right now to do the presentation. I have the presentation open in one browser, and I'm presenting that tab to you. This is the best option for sharing videos with sound or animations. Okay? When you want to share a screen, when I did this, I was on my computer at school, and I have two screens. So I had to pick which screen I wanted to share and then click share. Oh, excuse me. Even if you have only one screen, it's still going to show you that one screen. You have to choose it, and then you click share. If you want to share a window, again, it will show you a list of all the windows you have open. You choose the one that you want to share, and then click share. And then finally, the last one, share a tab. It will show you every tab you have open in Chrome. Once you choose the tab you want to share, you need to make sure that right here you click on share audio so that the audio that's being produced in that tab will also be shared with your participants. And then click share. So let's look at some other important areas of the Meet interface. Let's come back over here to the Meet. Okay.
So here we have.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So here we have some useful Google Meet extensions. Now, please keep in mind. Oh, Walter, close the screen.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I was going to show them some of the stuff in the interface.
That's okay.
That we didn't go over.
Okay,
sorry. Go ahead, John.
Well, just a real quick thing about extensions. We know that some of the teachers and some of the other teachers that I've worked with in the past have maybe had Chrome browser issues with extensions. Extensions are a wonderful addition to your Google Chrome browser. The only thing is sometimes you'll run into having too many Google extensions, and sometimes that'll slow down your Google Meets. In the past, I've had some of my teachers tell me that sometimes the audio will go off or the video will go off, or sometimes the meets just run down very slowly. And we do have a lot of teachers out there that are extremely tech savvy and doing a lot of wonderful research when it comes to extensions. But just keep in mind, if your computer's running perfectly and you've added a couple of extensions to your Chrome browser, that if it ever slows down or it starts acting a little reasonably slower than it was in the past, just keep in mind the addition of any Google extensions could have been the problem. You could always remove them and add them again if you need that. And I just wanted to say that before we go into the Google extensions. Go ahead, Walter. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Let me. Present this one so you can see. Now, one thing, if you have problems with your extensions, the first thing you should check is if your Chrome browser is up to date. In the upper right corner where you have your ellipses, right next to your avatar, click there, go down to About Chrome Browser, and it'll bring up a tab and it'll tell you, it'll check to see if you're up to date. A lot of times that will solve a lot of issues you may have with any Google extension or anything with the browser itself. For your students, since a lot of them will be using Chromebooks, you do the same process to update the Chromebook. I highly recommend it's at least once a week you have your students go through the process of updating their Chromebooks and make sure they restart the Chromebook. If you don't restart it, you don't tell it to shut down and restart, it will not update. There are some files in the operating system that can't be replaced while the operating system is active. When you reboot, it gives the update program the chance to replace those files because they're not in use yet because the operating system hasn't loaded. So we found, especially in the high school, we found that it's a good idea to do that at least once a week. The kids, unfortunately, I love them to death, but they don't turn them off. They just close the lid and go on. Same thing, some teachers don't shut their computers off all week, and an update is set up, but Windows won't do the full update until it restarts. So you need to turn it off and turn it back on. Same thing with the browser. You need to update it on a regular basis. Okay. Now, some of the things, other areas that we need to look at, you've got your meeting details that John was telling you about when we were going over the information bar. It gives you the information. You can copy the joining information and send it to somebody. You've got your People's tab. Since you mute, for me, since I'm the host, it lets me mute everybody. Lets me add people. Gives me access to the host controls. I can pin somebody to to the top, or I can, if someone's not behaving, I can remove them from the meeting. Okay. We have the chat. And as we've all learned from using Google Meet, if you add something, anybody that joins after you add it, they don't get to see it. Okay. Has everybody had a chance to do the remote check-in? If you haven't, let me know in the chat and I'll. Who there? Mr. Rao, you asked about, what about when doing ARDs? What do you mean by ARDs, Mr. Rao? Be a little bit more specific. For the activities, we have the breakout rooms. You go in, you can set up your breakout rooms. And this one has 9 rooms set up with 4 people to the room and one room with 2 people. You can put a timer on how long you want the rooms to be open. You can shuffle people around. It'll move people around to the different breakout rooms, or you can put them in there yourself. You decide I want these 3 kids working together on a project. You can drag them to the room you want them in. You just drag and drop. Okay. Once you've got everything done, you click Open Rooms, and it tells everybody what room they're going to. And then finally, you have your host controls. I have quick access turned on so everybody that joined using their LISD account were able to quickly join into the meeting. If you had to ask permission to join, that means you're not using your LISD account. And so you have to get permission to join, and I have to say yes. Okay? I can let everybody share their screen, or I can turn it off and only I'm allowed to share my screen. I can let everybody send chat messages, or I can turn it off and I'm the only one that can send chat messages. Okay? You can click here and view all the host controls, which would open up this screen. You'll see all the host controls. You see video, you making sure about your settings. Same thing for your audio. And those are all the interface controls that we went over. Okay? I wanted to make sure everybody got to see all those interface controls. So I'm going to switch back to the presentation. Can everybody see? Yeah, everybody can see. Okay. Now we're going to talk about some of the extensions. John?
I'll go ahead and review some of the extensions. So I had mentioned a few minutes ago about extensions. And like I said, our wonderful teachers are researching extensions. I know at the campuses that I've worked at, some teachers have recommended many extensions from other companies. Some of these extensions may or may not have been researched by the district. So in some cases, since these extensions are free, and they're created by different entities that may not be correlated with Google, they may have errors, okay? So if you ever download an extension, because maybe you've heard about it at YouTube and you've seen that other educators are using it and it's a legit extension, you could always give it a try. And if you do have any weird problems that happen after an extension, it's very simple to remove the extension itself from your Google browser. We'll go over that in a little bit. But here are some of the ones that we do recommend, because these have been used before with various teachers at the school district, and they seem to be working okay. And of course, we always love to have our teachers' feedback. If there is an extension that you've used before and you recommend, let us know. We'd love to provide that feedback and data to all of our staff members when we're having these type of teachable moments for everyone. But let me go over quickly the 60 we have here on the screen. So we have the Google Meet attendance. This is one of the ones that we started off our school year with, and then Google went ahead and set up their own version. Now, depending on when you were updated and when it was updated on your browsers, I would say towards the middle of this year. In some cases, it was either removed from your Chrome browser, or we actually did have some teachers that started encountering problem with the extension itself. And of course, all you'd have to do is remove it. Google created their own version, and basically what you're looking at right now in front of you and your screen with your new layout is the Google version of that. So some of you guys may also have this as a default setting on yours, and it's working for you. So if it's working for you and you haven't had any problems, that's a wonderful option for you to do your meeting and attendance with.
Now, hold on, real quick, John. The only drawback to the Google attendance is you have to have 5 or more people in your meeting in order to get the email with the attendance in it.
That is correct.
Google Meet attendance, it was created by a teacher, and he's constantly updating. It's now version 2.01. The link there is to a video that I created going through showing you how to use it, the basic needs. There's an older version. He's added a lot of stuff to it. I use it for my trainings, and I like it because it doesn't require any action from the teacher. You can make classroom lists where you can preload your students, and then it checks them, and then you know who's present or not. And you can turn on seeing it. Let me show you what it looks like. This is what the extension looks like. Now, as you can see here, I've got some people here that join from outside the district. So that sometimes causes a problem, but most of your students are going to be joining with their district Google account, so their names will pop in here automatically. And it keeps track of you. It gives you 2 files. It gives you a file you can open in Excel, and it tells you every time that they enter and leave the meeting. It'll also give you a web page file that gives you a graphical representation of when they were in the meeting, when they dropped out. If you see it drop out, like it goes from green to white, back to green, it could be they had connectivity problems. We do have some students that have that problem with the hotspots. But he keeps it up to date. You report a problem, he goes to work on it and usually has something done very quickly. I love it because I can start it and just, once I start it, I click down here, I hide it, and it runs in the background. And you can set it so that when you leave the meeting, it automatically downloads. Right, Mr. Riley. It also tells you how many minutes the student was in class. That's nice if you need to keep track of the time the students are in class. Like if they want to report how long the students are in tutorial, you can have it running during your tutorial class, and it'll give you the number of minutes that they were in tutorial that day. And it stores that information for you. If you have sync turned on in your Google account, it'll store that information. You can always go back and get it. I don't think you can do that with the Google Meet. I don't hear any knocking. Does anybody else hear knocking? Okay, I stop the presentation.
yes, ladies and gentlemen, whenever that happens, we've actually started encountering those issues late towards the end of the year. And in most cases, all you have to do is just close up the link, open up the link again, and everything usually goes back to normal. Sometimes it's a Wi-Fi issue. Sometimes it just has to be a location issue. Sometimes it's a little bit of both. And we're always going to run into little bumps like this in the road. But in most cases, all you got to do is, if this happens with your students or with your parents, we highly recommend it at the beginning of any of your presentations, just to let them know to have the link available in case you need to close up the session and reopen the session, which is what we did right now on the fly, and everything seems to be working as it should. So Walter will go ahead and bring up that screen again, and hopefully we don't get that feedback. All right, so here we go. Take two. We'll try this again, going over some of the extensions quickly. We have the second one is the Google Meet grid, which is the fixed view, and it's in quotes. In parentheses. And what would happen at the beginning of when we started all of these Google Meets, this was, again, another extension that was available. It was created by another educator. And it was having errors, and in some cases we had some teachers that it's still working fluidly, and in other cases it's just causing errors. If you remove it, you're going to see the screen as you currently see, because Google did their own version and their own update to that. So again, if you ever run into any errors on extensions, it's just highly recommended to just remove them. The third option there we have is called Google Meet Push to Talk, and this lets you use your spacebar to mute and to unmute your microphone during any of the Google Meets that you've created. This is a wonderful extension that you can add. There's another one that's called Mute Tab, which allows you to mute the sound coming from your Chrome browser. And of course, it's just a mute. The other one that we've heard before is Dualist. We've had other trainings with Dualist, and this allows you to split your browser. It allows you to split your browser tabs, like if you have a dual monitor on your screen. In some cases, this is a wonderful option for your students, so that way you can have the two screens to be able to present. It seems to be working flawlessly, at least with the campuses that I've worked with. This is a very good option to consider if you want to have the version of having two monitors on your one screen. You're going to run out of a little bit of real estate on your screen, but you will be able to basically split your screen and have two screens on there. The last one is called Tactia, I believe, for Google Meet transcription. And if you have the closed caption turned off on the extension, this will create a transcript of everything that shows up when you're using your closed caption. So this will give you the ability to be able to create a file from anything that's being transcribed verbally on your screen. So these are just some of the extensions that teachers have asked about or inquired about here in the past few months. And we just thought we'd kind of briefly go over these extensions that seem to have benefited our teachers in the classroom.
And I'll tell you right now that there are volumes of videos out there on how to use different extensions. So you can always find something on YouTube to explain an extension. Most of the people that create the extensions create a YouTube video to help explain how to use it. I posted in the chat for the Google Meet extension link. I guess he created a company name so he can use under that. So that's a link to it. And they took down the other one, the older one. So that's the link to it. I'll correct it in the presentation. And if you want to make recopy it, you can. I'll repost the link to copy it in this moment. Okay. Now, any questions about Google Meet before we carry on? You may notice under the activities, Under the activities, it has one called whiteboarding. Okay. The other app we're going to talk about in this meeting is Jamboard. The whiteboarding in Google Meet is Jamboard. Okay. And it's made a lot of evolution since the last time I did a training on this last summer. They've added stuff to it, and it's still maturing. But from here, you can open up, you can hit whiteboarding, and they give you a choice. You can start a new whiteboard, or you can choose one that you've pre-made beforehand and saved in your Google Drive. Okay. Let me go back to the presentation so we can move on and go into Jamboard. Okay. A file in Jamboard is called a jam. Now, Jamboard is a Google app or program like Docs and Meets and Slides, Sheets, and Forms. Jamboard is a digital whiteboard that can be used to plan, illustrate ideas or thinking, and collaborate with others, not in the same place. Google also sells a device called a Jamboard. This is a picture of it. And if you're working on a Jamboard on your iPad or on your phone or on your computer, and you have one of these devices, you can choose the option to open it up on this device. And it'll work like a Promethean board or a Mimeoteach with the styluses that they have attached to it. Okay. They have apps for the iPad, the smartphone, the Chromebook. You can download an app. There's a Windows PC version, but there are differences between the app and the web version. So they will not look, the interface will not look exactly the same on the iPad or on the iPhone as it does in the web. Okay. And Jamboard is part of our LISD G Suite. Okay, now recent studies have highlighted that these are the top skills needed in the workplace: problem solving, team working, communications, critical thinking, and creativity. Jamboard offers unique capabilities to enable these skills too. All 6 of those important skills Jamboard can help with. Okay, G Suite, the collaboration tools, Forms, Docs, Sheets, Slides, Drive, Jamboard, immersive learning, Gmail, Meet, and Hangouts. You can communicate. Classroom and Calendar help out a lot with that too. Let's look at some things that can be done at Jamboard. Now this is recording of the training I did last year with John on Jamboard. And this is a Google YouTube playlist of a bunch of videos that talk about how to use Jamboard and ideas for using Jamboard in the classroom and integrating it. And it works great. This is the Jamboard interface. Okay, I'm going to actually start a Jamboard and we're going to go through it, but I wanted this here so you can always refer back to it when you're not in the meeting. So let me go ahead and start a jam. So this pops up. It shows you everybody that's in the meeting. You can tell if they can view it or edit it. Now, this doesn't mean you can't change that after it started. The nice thing about Jamboard is you can change the sharing setting on the fly, and it updates almost instant.
What I like to recommend to my teachers is at the beginning, when you're creating a Jamboard, you as the educator would just need to define to yourself, do you want the students or your parents to have full access to the Jamboard, or do you want them to just view it as a read only? If you're going to have your students incorporate their data during your presentation live and you want them to add to the Jamboard, you need to make sure that those options are offered for them to be able to edit the presentation. Now, there's a good and a bad to that. So if you give them full rights to edit, they will be able to edit your presentation on the fly. So this is a good time to explain about digital citizenship, and that the kids aren't supposed to be writing anything silly on the screens or removing anything. In most cases, I'd say, like, honestly, 99%, the students aren't going to mess with your Jamboard. But if you do give them the lesson in which they're going to be incorporating and writing sentences and adding stuff, they will have the options to edit. Now, of course, if your presentation is having issues and then, things are getting out of hand and you've given everybody the ability to edit, all you have to do is just go to the share option and remove that option, and the link will become a read only. And it's really good because it can be done like on the fly. So if you give them the edit, like when you start your presentation and you give them full rights to edit, everybody can be editing. And then if you tell them, hey, in the next 10 seconds, I'm going to remove that option. As soon as you click on it, it's really good on real time. As soon as you change the option, they will not be able to add or modify the presentation. So it really works very well. Like I said, currently I'm at the elementary working with the kids at the elementary, and sometimes they're going over definitions and they're selecting the term versus the definition. So the kids are moving the stuff on the screen because the teacher has given them permission. And then your guy, we got 5 seconds left. And then they'll turn off the option, and then the students can't move the options anymore on the screen. So it is a wonderful option because it does happen in real time. So, okay. Sorry about that, Mr. Wilkins. Go ahead.
That's okay. I hear the interface. You're talking about changing on the fly. Right here, we see share. It says shared with 32 people. I would click on share, and it comes up to here, and then I click here, and right now I could click on it to change it from editor to viewer, or viewer to editor, whichever one I wanted. Right now everybody's an editor. I could turn it off, and then all y'all would be able to do is watch. Okay. Earlier when I was talking about open on the Jamboard, if you had one of those devices handy, you could click share, and it would take the jam that you have open right now and send it to the Jamboard, and you could walk over and work on it on the Jamboard. Okay. Now notice the title for this jam. It's the title of our meeting. Okay. We could click on it and rename it if we wanted to. Okay. I've got my avatar here. John just said hello to everyone. You have here some options. You can sign in, sign up. You can capture, start a new Jamboard. You have the options here. Close this. The ellipses, rename it. You can download it as a PDF. You can save one of the frames as an image. You could remove the frame. You can make a copy of the jam. You can get help. You can send feedback to Google. Or you can see the version history. Now, each slide in a jam is called a frame. And up here, you see your frame bar. This is where you can go from frame to frame. If you click on it, it expands. It shows you a little thumbnail of the frame. If you want to add a frame, you want to add it after, you click the plus here. If you want to add it before, you click the plus here. It adds a frame. You can even click on these ellipses. You can duplicate the frame, or you can delete it. Okay. Here our menu, we have our undo and redo. You have your zoom. Set the background. You can choose from these available backgrounds, or if you want, you can come here and you can upload a picture. Okay. And if you decide you want to just start over, hit clear frame and it erases everything on that frame, not on the whole thing. Okay. As you can see here, it tells you everybody that's sharing that's on the jam right now. And here you have your tools. You have your pen for drawing and writing. You can click on it. You can choose what your pen style looks like, which basically decides how thick your line is. You can choose the color. Okay. You've got your eraser, which you erase. You got your selection tool, which will allow you to select. You got your sticky note tool, which you can change the color that people have already used.
I didn't realize that other people can erase your work, right? Like someone else can erase.
Yes, if you share, if you give them access, they have full access. They can erase. Okay.
Yes, that's correct. That's why at the beginning when I was talking about you as a teacher, you need to just review and think that if you're going to present this to your students, that it's either going to be a read only, which means that nobody would be able to, they'd be able to see the information that you're doing and not being able to edit. Whereas, and when you give the option for everybody to edit, then it's everybody's got full reign to be able to edit and delete even the stuff that the teachers have done or even the stuff that the students have done. So just keep in mind that when in some cases, I know at the elementary, we've had the teachers that you'll start off with the link as a read only. So that way everybody understands, you know, the format and what they can do and what they can't do. And then the teacher will say, okay, for the next minute, you guys are going to be able to move things on the screen, which is actually going to be the next part of our exercise here that we're going to have you do a little sample here. And then once you give that editing option, then everybody has free reign to go in there and move, remove, you know, edit, delete. Everything can be done on the fly. So you got to be careful how much real estate is open, because once you open it and it gives the options for editing, then all of your frames are available for any of your students to go in there and manipulate and delete. So if you have this awesome presentation that's ready to go and it's 30 slides or more or 20 or 100 or whatever, and then you open it for editing, just keep in mind that if the students want to go to 50 and 60 and start deleting or modifying, they can do that when you give them the option to be able to edit. So just be careful on how much real estate is made available to your students. But like I said, in most cases, 99% of the time, if you tell the students, hey, you know, these are your expectations, I want to make sure that no one's moving or, you know, deleting or whatever, you know, the kids will respond and will understand and will abide by your rules. But again, that just has to do with just showing the students. In most cases at the elementary, we always tell the students to start off, the teachers to start off with a read only. So that way, just like we're presenting to you currently on the screen, the students get to understand what Jamboard does, what you can and you can't do. And then the teacher will go ahead and give them the option and tell them, hey, here, the next minute it'll be open, in which you would update that link option.
And currently, there's not a way to restrict them to one frame. So like John said, if you give them access, they have access to everything. As some people have already shown, with this option here, you can upload pictures anything you have in your Google Drive or anything you have on your computer, or if you have the web address for a picture, you can type it in and put it in there. Or you can go to your Google Photos, or you can do just like you can in Google Docs and in Slides, you can do a Google image search. My grandson loves Minions, so choose it, insert. Picture's there, and you can move it around, resize it, rotate it, do whatever you want to with it. Okay. Shapes. You have shapes right here. You have these shapes. You can put them in. And use them as you want. You can have a text box. Last year, they didn't have this option for a text box. And you can type. You want to go. And then here's a laser pointer. If you want to highlight something with your kid, with your students, to get their attention around something, you can use it, and it comes in handy. Now, one of the things that came in, I saw right off the bat with Jamboard, as I taught science, a lot of things we deal with have steps or order of operations. So, like for some of the little ones that have a hard time expressing themselves, or you have a student that has a hard time expressing themselves, you can put pictures on the page on a frame, and then have boxes numbered 1, 2, the sequence. And then the job for the student would be to drag and drop the pictures into the proper order or sequence. That's one way for a special needs student to be able to demonstrate their knowledge visibly. There's a whole lot of things you can do with Jamboard. Kids can be very, very creative.
So as we always like to say, time flies when we're having fun. We're just about to approach the 2 p.m. hour, and we're gonna give you a little break / the beginning of the next part of our assignment. So Walter, real quick, I know that there's another part that you're going to present, but
no, we're at the part where we're ready to create a jam. So okay. I think Perfect. It's a good time to take a 5-minute break.
Okay, and while you guys are taking a break, if you're not going to take a break, Walter, can you just throw your previous jam on the screen real quick? The previous one that you were working on? Or, yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, the next part of the assignment, we're going to take a little break. But if you notice, up at the top of the screen, you have where you can select your different frames. So if you go to the second frame, I put elementary teachers. Then the next frame we have for our middle school teachers. And then the next one we have for our high school teachers. And then the other one we have for other, if you're at another department. So your next exercise after our 5-minute break is I want you to go ahead and add a sticky note to whichever department or whichever teaching field you're at. So if you're at an elementary teacher, you're going to go ahead and go to the frame that says elementary if you're an elementary teacher. And on your right, on the toolbar that's on your left side of the screen, right in the middle of that toolbar, you have the option to do your sticky notes. So all you would do is just click on your sticky note and you would type in your name and what it is that you teach. So like, for example, I would put John Hill and I would put DLS and then I would be in other, right? Or I could put myself in elementary because I'm also at the elementary. So if everybody could do that, and we're going to go ahead and hold off. It is 1:55. We will give everybody a 5-minute break and we will continue at 2 p.m. Walter, any closing
No,
before the
we're
break?
fine.
Okay, perfect.
Everybody enjoy your break. Stand up, walk around, stretch your legs. I know some people are in their classrooms, so I guess you're teaching summer school. So relax and enjoy your 5-minute break.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is now 2 p.m. I'm going to go over a couple of little things right before we jump back into our Jamboard information. And if Mr. Wilkins doesn't mind, I'm going to go ahead and present quickly.
Let me stop presenting.
So by popular demand, I'm going to go ahead and bring up some information, and everybody should see my screen. So Google has done some updates, and we went over quite a few of the updates here at the beginning of our presentation. And let me see. Okay, so you guys should see my screen. And so if for example you wanted to pin down like for example, if I wanted mine, for you guys in your screen it might look a little bit different from what you see currently on my screen, but if you wanted yours to be pinned to the middle of the screen, you would hover over your own picture, and when you press pin, you're going to be full screen. So you should be now full screen. And of course, if you want to go back, all you got to do is unpin yourself, and then you should be able to go back to where you're at. I'm going to move some of the stuff on my screen so I can have a little bit more real estate here. Okay. The other thing that I was going to bring up is, you can see right here, your audio. Just in case, in some cases, your audio may not be working. So notice over here, if you see it's now like blue and white. If it's as I'm moving and as I'm speaking, you can see that the audio is picking up. Here, this is to unpin myself. So I would unpin myself, and I would go back to the normal position right there. And this is a Google update. And in some cases, it may not have updated on your account. From what I was just told, all of the updates should have gone through all the way towards the last days of May. So you should have those options. I know that at my campus, when Google had another rollout, some of them were not able to see, like, for example, the poll. Like, for example, some of the teachers at my campus were not getting the options to be able to do poll questions, and in some cases, what they actually had to do is they had to go to their account, log out of Google. So you'd click on where your name is at the top of the screen. Mine's Jay because I'm John. So you click on the J, and then actually sign out of Google, restart your computer, and then when you sign back into Google. In most cases, the teachers that hadn't got that Google update, they got that Google update. So that's just something you might want to consider in case you're doing an update and something hasn't updated correctly on your screen. Okay. So before we begin, does anybody have any questions? No questions? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen real quick, and then we'll see what everybody posted on the Jamboard that we had previously set up. So I'm going to go ahead and show my screen here. All righty. So if you notice right here, everybody should be able to see, for example, right here, I put that we had our, on slide 2 or our frame or slide, we have right here our first grade teachers put their name. We have various subjects. Thank you. So we have people that are still able to edit and move stuff around the screen. Now notice right here, if you notice the background, what I did was I changed the background. So all I did was go to set background and I changed it. If I wanted to change it again to like a blue graph, it would change it to a blue graph. These are the different backgrounds. You can also add an image if you wanted the image to come out on the background. And this would be the background to your slide or to your frame. Okay. Next one we have, oh my goodness, we only have a few people in middle school. Welcome. And then we have our high school teachers. Wonderful. Everybody's added their names. And then other. I guess I should have put mine. So, so for the example right here, if I wanted to add something, all I would do is go to the left of the screen. Here's the sticky note. If I wanted to change my sticky note color, I could change it to green. And then I could go ahead and type in my information, which would be John Hill. And then I could put that I'm the DLS. And then save that option, and then it would be there on the screen. And of course, all I got to do is hover over it, click it. Notice how right here, it has that right and left arrow. So if I want to rotate, I can rotate the option. Notice over here to the right, you have the options where you can edit, duplicate, or delete. Okay. So for example, if I wanted to duplicate it, because let's say you're doing maybe you're doing a vocabulary word that you wanted to put multiple times. Now let me give you a quick cheat sheet. So in the elementary, this is what I would tell to some of the teachers. So for example, if you were doing like a definition and on one side of the screen you had definitions and maybe the name of a character or the definition, the word of it on the left, and then the definitions on the right, and you wanted the kids to be able to drag something, then what they would do is you can go ahead and duplicate. So I would duplicate, hover it over there, and then duplicate again and hover it over. So that way the kids think it's still one option. So let's say on the right side I have the word over here and the definition over here. So if the kids wanted to choose and you had group 1 was green, and you tell them, okay, please select the definition, and then you'd have the kid click, and then they'd be able to select the word and the definition. And notice the definition would still stay there, so that way the next team could go ahead and write that. And basically what that is just duplicating the same thing over and over again, so you have multiple options instead of just one, because then you have one, and then of course they're gone, and then you'd have to type it again and start from scratch. So this is just an option. And of course, if you wanted to delete them, you can edit, duplicate, you could delete. The order sending backward and sending forward is mainly more if you start incorporating images. So let's say, for example, you wanted this sticky note to be on the top of one of your images. It just depends on when you put the sticky note and when you put the image, because the sticky note might be over your image or your sticky note might be under your image. And that's where you would change the option. So if I wanted the sticky note to be over the image, I could move the image to wherever it is. Like, for example, here's this one, and this is going over it. So if I wanted this to go under it, then I could just click on this, go to order, and tell it to send back, and it would be at the back of this one. So if I wanted it to come out that way, it could go that way. And of course, if you want this to be on the back of this one, then I could click on this one, and then again, click on here, click on order, send backward, and now it's in the back. And now this one is covering that one. And usually that was done more because they're doing vocabulary and they might want to put the picture, like maybe the protagonist, antagonist, and then you have the pictures of the people that on the story that you're talking about, and then you want the students to drag the name of the definition or the name of the character, and you want the name to be over the picture, then you could do stuff like that. Okay. And of course, you have your other options that I know Mr. Wilkins went over. You have your pen option, your eraser option, and again, adding an image, adding a circle, adding a text box. If you wanted to add a text box to that, you could. these are all the options that can be added. Now, the coolest thing about this, and Mr. Wilkins also went over this, this is just a quick review, is when you go over here right next to the share option, again, if you want to rename your file that you're working on, you could do that. Here, you'd be able to download it as a PDF. You can save your frame as an image. So let's say, for example, this was the work of all your students in slide or frame 5, and you wanted to save this and email it to your students, or maybe this is a grade, or maybe this is something that you wanted to put in your Google Classroom, then you would save the frame, and then this would save this as a picture. It would save it as an image, okay? Again, you can remove your file, you can make a copy of your file. And we have some other Google options for if you wanted to actually send and get feedback from Google. They're very good about responding to any, if you guys have any critiques on the actual program itself, and you want to tell Google, hey, you know, I think it'd be a good idea for you to incorporate this in Jamboard. They're very good about listening to the teachers that post information there in the feedback area. So if you wanted to send them something, that goes directly to Google. Okay, and then of course you have all your other slides. So go ahead, Mr. Wilkins. Sorry to...
That's okay. No problem. No problem. They were all good suggestions, Mr. Hill. Very well done. Okay. Okay, so what we would like you to do in the few minutes that are remaining is for you to create a jam reflecting how you might use it in your class. And we would like you to do this list of things right here in your jam. Change the background to your frame, add a frame. Some ways to share it, come up with in a text box, but how you would share your jam. Insert 3 different shapes. And then paste a link to your jam here in the jam we have here for the meeting. Okay. Now, the only drawback is the links in the jam are not active. That's the one thing that, as far as I know, they haven't gotten to work yet. So if somebody wants to see it, they have to cut and paste. Make sure when you set up your jam, you share it so they can view. I don't want anybody to delete anything from another person's jam.
Would you like them to go ahead and paste it in the chat area?
Yeah, they could do that.
This is what a lot of the teachers at my campus do. What they do at my campus is that if they create a jam when they're doing their Google Meet, because we had a lot of Google Meet sessions this past year, and they would tell the students, okay, in your chat area, I'm going to go ahead and post that link, which is the link to the Jamboard. And as soon as the teacher had that readily available, they would paste it, and then the students would be able to go into that link right during the Google Meet, click on the chat, and then they were in the Google session, in the Google Jamboard session.
Now, one thing I would suggest when you create these jams for your classes starting in the fall, create your original and then make a copy for each class period that you're going to use it. That way you always have your original to go back to. If if a student accidentally or on purpose messes up the one you're using for that meeting, you have your original that you can go back to. Okay. And you can always make the original, and when you share it through an assignment, make a copy for each student, and each student has their own copy. So please do that, and then post a link in the chat. Everybody can get an idea, get ideas from each other. Because one individual may have some great ideas, but all of us have hundreds and thousands of great ideas that we can always take and change just a little bit to meet what we need.
And I know that there's 15 minutes left before the end of the session here. So those of you that are beginning to post your completed sessions, we'll go ahead and showcase those teachers that are ready and have created a session link in Jamboard, so we can see what our teachers are creating online. So we'll give you guys a couple of minutes to create your Jamboard, and then when you have it ready, go ahead and click on it. And if you do get, I noticed right there it was saying access denied. Just don't forget that when you're sharing the link option, that as the educator, you're clicking on the share option, and just make sure to have the option readily available for the option for all of us to be able to access it. Mr. Wilkins, would you like to show that option on the sharing of the link, so that way we make sure that everybody has that share option available? So notice at the top of the screen you have that blue button. This is the share when you're ready to share. And when you click on it at the bottom, it says get your link. And then notice right there it says share with LISD. In some cases, I have reported, some of the teachers have reported to me that notice how it says right there Laredo ISD only. And in some cases, we might need to change it to anyone with this link. Okay. If your link has changed the option and the students are still not able to access it, I would recommend for you to change it to anyone with this link. And then notice on the right, it still says viewer only, which is fine. That means that we'll be able to view it. You press done, you copy the link, and then that's what you'd be able to paste. I know that option, in some cases, for those of us that weren't using the LISD system, when I was doing parent meetings and the parents were using like their cell phones or different providers, and they weren't using an LISD email to get into the link, sometimes they would have those errors. So you would need to change it to anyone with this link. So that way, even if your students are not using, maybe they're not using a Chromebook, or they're not at school, or they're not using their email from school, you would want to make sure that they do have access to the homework or to the Jamboard that you've created. So make sure that you change it to anyone with this link. Now, just keep in mind that anyone with this link can open it, okay? So that's open for everybody in the web to be able to have access to that. So again, if you wanted viewer only, then they'd be able to view it.
Okay, everybody should use the one, anyone with the link, because there are people in the meeting that are not using they're using their personal or some other email account, not their LASD one.
So Walter, you want to go ahead and click on a couple of the ones that have been posted on the...
Yeah, I'm clicking on them, but some of them won't let me in because...
Try Miss Cynthia Bernals if you want to see. Hers is working. I know I did get a couple of them that also did get that error.
Yeah, that's hers being presented right now. Very good, Miss Bernal. This is Ms. Martinez's. See what else she puts on it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've clicked on a couple of them and I've posted a couple of them that are still getting the link error, which means that the option hasn't been updated on y'all's side. So just remember when you're doing the share to go ahead and change that option to the options that we just discussed here a few minutes ago on the share. And as soon as you change that option, the link that you posted on the chat should become operable. Okay, so we're rounding down to our last 5 minutes here, and what I wanted to do is just a couple of housekeeping right towards we get to the end of our session here. And I just wanted to double check because I don't see the error anymore. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the teacher, but one of the teachers had said that the remote check-in was not working. Mr. Wilkins, do you think you could post that remote check-in number again, just in case?
Certainly.
And if you could double check, Ms. Loera, if you could double check to see if that remote check-in is still giving you an error on login, if it is, so that way we can report that. I'm actually here at the Cedar office, so if there's an error on that, all I got to do is walk a couple of steps and I'll make sure that your information gets updated over here at the Cedar office.
I've also posted in the chat a link to the evaluation form and an attendance form. Please fill out both. Especially the attendance form so you can get credit. And you'll be an hour and a half down from your 20 hours for next year.
So double check on your remote check-in. It's 811-60848. Again, just double check on the numbers, 811-60848. I know that some of the teachers had mentioned sometimes you're copy and pasting from the chat, and then copying from the chat and then pasting it into the website. Sometimes I know some of the teachers, at least at my campuses, had reported that it was an error for the remote check-in. So you might want to just double check and just literally type in the numbers, the 811-60848. Sometimes that works with a remote check-in. If you still continue to have that error, just please let me know and we'll double check on that.
The remote check-in on mine didn't want to open.
Okay.
Did you log in, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I tried it from another computer as well. No, and didn't want to do it. So I thought it was my computer, maybe. No.
Well, make sure you fill out the attendance form, and we'll make sure they know that you attended.
Okay. Yes.
So I went ahead and posted right there where this takes you directly to eSystems, and then from there you go into ClassLink. You want to try logging in from there and see if that works for you?
That's how I'm doing it, sir. But I'll try it again.
Okay. Is there anybody else that's having error with the remote check-in? If you could, please either let us know on the microphone or please post it on the chat so that way we can write down that information so I can go ahead and talk to the people here at the Cedar office to make sure that you guys are getting credit.
We need to fill out the extra duty form. Can we do so with Cami?
Yes, you can.
And is this going to be for every course that we take, or are we going to add up upon it? Like if we have a course tomorrow to attend?
That's a good question. I believe that you can put it all on one because that's through one pay period.
Mm-hmm.
Let me walk over and ask because you might have to submit that file per class. Give me 30 seconds. I know it's already 2:30, but give me 30 seconds to walk over and ask.
All right, thank you.
What form?
It's in the value. It's in the attendance on the second page. It's going to give you two hyperlinks. One's for August, one's for July, one's for June.
Yeah, more than likely you'll do it all on one since it's all going to be for June, and then you're going to get it in the July paycheck.
Yes, because the payroll cutoff, I'm looking at the form, payroll cutoff is Saturday, June 26th for the pay date in July.
Yeah.
So then, the next cutoff is July 31st. So I guess if you have any from June 26th before, and then you do the next one before July 31st.